Speaking of managers and being amicable and nice, there's one manager who does not like Scott Minto at all. Now, we were covering a match. It was Chelsea up against West Ham, a match which we got a chance to speak to Thomas Tuchel at the London Stadium at the end. And this is before the news came out that Lukaku had given the interview. Now, we believe when we spoke to Thomas Tuchel, the interview had already been conducted. It just wasn't publicly known. And when Scott asked about Lukaku, I'm telling you this, Brad, so you're in the loop, there was a very curt answer. And I'm going to give my impression of Thomas Tuchel's face to Scott. That was the look he gave. I'm not even joking. It was a glare. Now, today, it was a very comfortable victory, Scott, and they could have brought on Lukaku, a man who you feel probably needs a confidence boost. I know he scored against Luton in the FA Cup, but this is the Premier League. Is it surprising that Tuchel opted to bring on Werner instead of Romelu Lukaku today, to at least have a runabout for 10, 15 minutes with the side 4-0 up at the time?
You're absolutely right, Adam. I mean, it wasn't a Zoolander look, was it? It was a very mean look he gave me. And it was, you know, I just felt there wasn't quite something right, that Lukaku had been fit for a good few games, and yet he was still on the bench. And, you know, you asked all the relevant questions at that particular time. So when I had a chance, I thought, I'll just ask about Lukaku. And I said it in a very, you know, non-confrontational way. What did you think of him? When do you think he'll start the next game? And the answer was so curt. I thought, I'm not having that. I'm going back for a second question, even though you only said I could have one. I said, but what do you think of him, you know, in terms of how he did today? And again, it was just the same answer. Obviously, a week or so later, it came out, and we found out it was around about the time of the West Ham game that he made the interview. So clearly, he wasn't happy. He knew what was going on. I think there's a big problem there. I really do. I mean, I would have played him in the Lille game to give him confidence to try and score, which then would have meant he would have played in the Liverpool game. And the fact that he didn't play in the Lille game and Havertz did so well, Havertz had to play in the Carabao Cup final against Liverpool. And then he played against Luton, which is, with all due respect, a bit of a come down. Of course, you want to win the FA Cup, but from Wembley to Kenilworth Road, a team in the Championship, it's a small stadium as well. You know, yes, he scored, but he still wasn't very, very, sort of in terms of his movement. And even in the Carabao Cup final where he came on, how many times was he offside? You know, I hear now so many times people say, oh, the manager's got to get the best out of the player. The manager's got to do this. The manager's got to do that. And of course he has. It's almost, you know, a psychological thing. You know, they have to be a psychiatrist, the managers, as well as good coaches nowadays. And the modern day player is kind of much more precious than they were back in mine and Brad's day. But Romelu Lukaku has to step up here. Almost £100 million was spent. Chelsea was meant to be the club that he played for. And while there are times, and I've seen it picked out on British TV, where they've got themselves into a really good position and needed to whip the ball in the box, and Lukaku's been there, and that's not happened, he has to keep on doing that game after game after game. Now, Thomas Tuchel is someone who he's come in, I wouldn't say he's transformed Chelsea, but what he did since he took over was nothing short of sensational. You know, winning the Champions League was absolutely incredible, as well as finishing in the top four. So he is a top class manager. But what he wants is someone, and all of his players, to be thinking of the team first, to be giving absolutely 100%. And we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes, but I can only think that maybe Romelu Lukaku's attitude hasn't been spot on. And while actually the bigger picture here is what's going to happen in terms of ownership with Chelsea going forward, because the last 20 years has been throwing money at them left, right and centre at players and salaries. They've not been the problem. In terms of the short term, you know, the shortfall that Chelsea need to make up between the top two, we all thought that was Lukaku coming in and making sure that, you know, they would be right up there with the Cities and the Liverpools. It's not happened. He's on a big contract. A lot of money's been spent. We don't know what's going to happen with Chelsea in the near future in terms of ownership. And this is something that has to be sorted. Yes, Tuchel needs to take a certain amount of blame for it because he's not getting the best out of his player. But I also think the player needs to take a lot of responsibility as well, because clearly his attitude hasn't been how it should be.